I shot a man, and now my own laughter is killing me. I can't stop laughing, and my ribs are broken. That's not a joke. I can feel the sharp edges grinding together every time my body convulses. My throat feels like I've swallowed sand and glass. I cough up blood, but the hacking just turns into another fit of giggles. I tried calling for an ambulance. The dispatcher thought it was a prank call. I don't blame her. It started 5 days ago. My partner, Noemi, and I were doing a welfare check at a desolate rest stop off the interstate. We're state troopers. 12 years on the job, and I'd never fired my weapon at a person. Not once. Something felt wrong the second we pulled into the empty lot. The air was too still, the silence too thick. The greasy lunch from the truck stop down the road turned over in my stomach. Then we heard it. A shout, followed by a laugh. "You want to call it in?" Noemi asked, her hand already near her radio. I shook my head. "Let's see what we're walking into." We got out of the cruiser. The shouting came from the men's restroom. One voice, angry and scared. But the other sound, it wasn't a voice. It was that laugh. High and thin, like air whistling out of a punctured lung. The sun was a hot weight on my shoulders. I moved into the shade of the brick building, peering through the doorway. A man in a gray hoodie was on his knees. He was clutching his stomach, his shoulders shaking. Another man, a trucker by the looks of him, was standing over him with a tire iron, screaming. But the man on the floor was the one with the gun. It lay on the concrete just beside his hand, and he just kept laughing. "Gun," I said, my voice a low hiss. "Call it in, now." Noemi backed away toward the car, her voice a calm, clipped report over the radio. I drew my service weapon, the metal cool against my sweating palm. The acid from my lunch burned the back of my throat. It wasn't the situation, it was the sound, that goddamn laugh. It was a sound of pure agony dressed up as joy. Noemi was back at my side, weapon drawn. Armed subject, refusing to comply, she murmured, her training kicking in. The trucker saw us and scrambled out of the restroom, babbling about a maniac. But the man on the floor, he just looked up. He pushed himself to his feet. He was young. Late 20s maybe, with a patchy blonde beard. His eyes were what got me. They were a startling, piercing blue, webbed with a spider's maze of broken blood vessels. His face was flushed a deep, painful red. Tears streamed down his cheeks, cutting clean paths through the grime. But his mouth was stretched wide in a terrible, soundless grin. Then the wheezing giggle started again, punctuated by sharp, desperate gasps for air. "State police, drop the weapon," I commanded. My voice sounded hollow. He didn't seem to hear me. He just took a stumbling step forward, then another. He wasn't looking at me with malice. He was looking at me with something else, relief. He was glad we were here. He reached down, his movements jerky, and picked up the gun. "This is wrong," Noemi whispered beside me. "Casimir, this is all wrong." She was right. He didn't look like a threat. He looked like a man drowning. But he was drowning and holding a gun and walking right at us. He raised it. I didn't want it to be her. I didn't want her to have to live with this, so I fired. The world went silent for a single, perfect second. The only sound was the crack of my weapon echoing off the concrete. His body hit the ground, and before the echo even died, I felt something bubble up from deep inside my gut. A weird twitching thing that clawed its way up my throat. I giggled. A light, airy sound. Completely fucking insane. A little puff of amusement at the man bleeding out on the pavement in front of me. I clapped a hand over my mouth, my eyes wide. I tried to swallow it, to force it back down, but it was too late. Noemi stared at me. The look on her face, it wasn't anger. It was a kind of deep, profound horror. "I need a second," I choked out, stumbling back to the cruiser. I slammed the door and just let it happen. I laughed until my vision swam with black spots and my stomach ached. By the time backup arrived, I knew it was over. Noemi never looked at me directly again. She just talked to the other troopers, her voice flat and professional, and I knew she was telling them everything. Every last detail. I couldn't have told them anyway. Every time I tried to form a sentence about what happened, the giggles would start again. They put me on administrative leave, standard procedure. But I saw the way they looked at me. I was a freak, a monster who laughed at a kill. The department psychiatrist they sent me to tried to be understanding. Her office was all soft lighting and beige furniture. Trauma can manifest in unusual ways, officer, she said, her voice a gentle murmur. Tell me what you see when this reaction occurs. His eyes, I started, and I could feel the pressure building in my chest, the blood, and then I was gone, howling, cackling like a madman for what felt like an eternity. When I finally stopped, gasping and wiping tears from my own eyes, the kindness was gone from her face. It was replaced by a clinical coldness. She wrote me a prescription for some heavy-duty tranquilizers and referred me to a specialist she said was better equipped to handle my case. The pills worked for a day. They turned the laughter into a silent, internal shaking. But they made the world feel like it was wrapped in cotton. I couldn't stay like that. No one from the department would take my calls, except Noemi. She sounded distant, scared. But she answered. I told her I thought it was contagious, that I caught it from him. She didn't believe me, not really. But she gave me his name, Cian O'Malley, and an address. It was enough. On day 3, I drove to his house. I felt like a ghoul. A woman with hollowed-out, swollen eyes answered the door. His wife. She didn't know who I was, not until I tried to apologize and a weak, pathetic giggle escaped my lips. Her face crumpled. You're him, she whispered. You're the one who killed him. I couldn't speak. I just nodded, shame burning a hole through my gut. I didn't know why I was there. To apologize? To find an answer? To make her share my burden? It was selfish, all of it. Come in, she said, her voice dead. I sat on her couch while she told me about Cian, how he'd come home 5 days before he died. He'd been out late. She thought he was drunk or cheating. He tried to explain, but he couldn't stop laughing. He had to write it down, she said, her hands trembling as she held out a crumpled piece of notebook paper. His handwriting was a frantic scrawl. Hit a man with the car. Not my fault. He ran into the road. He wanted it. I don't know why I can't stop laughing. Please believe me. She lit a cigarette, the smoke curling around her head like a shroud. I threw him out. I thought he was mocking me, making up the most fucked up lie he could think of. The next time I heard from him, he was at some cheap motel. I'd seen the news report about the hit and run by then. I knew that part was true. Ash from her cigarette fell onto the carpet. She didn't notice. He said it was like a sickness, a curse. He couldn't explain. He just started laughing again. I told him to turn himself in. I guess that's what he was trying to do. She let out a single, sharp bark of a laugh. It sounded like breaking glass. Then she looked at me, embarrassed. I needed to know more. I tried to ask, but the laughter choked me. She understood. She pushed a notepad and a pen across the coffee table. What motel, I wrote. The Econo Lodge off Route 11, by the truck wash. I stood up, my body aching. I'm sorry. Me too, she said, and she didn't look at me again. By the time I got to the motel, the pills were long gone from my system. The laughter was back, a constant, breathless seizure. God, not another one, the man at the front desk said, looking me up and down. You guys part of a cult or something? I managed to write down my request for Cian O'Malley's room. He made me pay the outstanding bill. I didn't care. He gave me the key. The room was a disaster. It smelled of sweat and fear. Pages of notebook paper were scattered everywhere. He'd been trying to figure it out, just like me. He'd taped newspaper clippings to the peeling wallpaper. A chain of deaths. The man he'd hit with his car, he'd killed a man in a bar fight a few days earlier. And that man, he'd been involved in a domestic dispute that left his wife dead. On and on it went. A daisy chain of misery. He'd tried to stop it. Notes detailed his attempts to end his own life. The rope snapped. The gun he bought jammed. He tried to overdose on pills and just vomited them back up. This thing, whatever it is, doesn't let you go easily. It needs a new home. The most terrifying discovery was a calendar he'd drawn on the back of the door. A series of names, each with a date. and next to each date, a circled number 5. 5 days. There are always 5 days between hosts. That meant I had less than 2 days left. His final notes were barely legible, the scrawls of a mind coming apart. He hadn't slept. He couldn't. The laughter wouldn't let him. That's where I am now. Last night, I got a few minutes of sleep here and there, but every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face. Those blue, bloodshot eyes. I'd wake up laughing, the sound ripping me out of my dreams. Tonight, there is no sleep. His face is all I see, even with my eyes open. The laughter never stops. It's a low hum in my chest, a constant vibration that's shaking my bones apart. They say if you go long enough without sleep, you just die. I think that was my hope, that I could just wear my body out until my heart stopped. Break the chain. But I know I'm not that strong. Chian wasn't. This thing wants to spread. I've emailed everything I found, everything Chian found, to a local journalist and to Noemi. Maybe they can find a way to stop this. Maybe they can warn people. I've spent my last few hours looking for answers. Mass hysteria. Dancing plagues. The Tanganyika laughter epidemic of 1962. It's all just words. None of it helps. I wish I'd found this place sooner. At least here, someone might believe me. The police threatened to arrest me if I call 911 again. I know what will happen if they show up at my door. They'll see a man laughing. They'll hear a threat in my voice I don't intend. They'll draw their guns. And one of them will become the next link in the chain. I can't let that happen. But I'm so tired. So fucking tired.